Hello and welcome to another video, and this is how to deadlift 700 pounds. Step 1, put 700 pounds on the bar. Step 2, deadlift it. That was a joke, although technically that is actually how you deadlift 700 pounds. But obviously I'm talking about the more kind of intricacies, the little things that I've done leading up to this point and so forth. So before I get onto that, before I get onto the topic of the week, I'm going to show you my training highlights from the week, my deadlifts of course. It's been pretty good. It's been kind of tough at times, but it's been pretty good. I have to do the middle of my 3 sessions in my work gym, but I got it done because I am a Martin Luther King type figure in that I just kind of push through adversity. Also, before I show the clips, keep your eyes peeled for an incredibly awkward moment. If you notice the awkward moment, press the awkward button. It looks a bit like a thumbs up. And there you go, all in all a pretty solid week. Like I said earlier, didn't feel amazing. It was a little bit of a grind at times, but I got it all done, and ultimately getting the volume in is key. I did the AMRAP session of course on the Monday. I got 7 reps as you just saw with what was I think just under 550 pounds, 247.5 kilos now. That was my max not that long ago, like, you know, not a million miles, not a million months ago or whatever. So it's quite cool to be doing that for 7 reps now. And to be honest, I probably had it for 1 or 2 more. It's quite bad. What I'm starting to do now, subconsciously I think, is that because I know that what I do in my AMRAP is going to influence the next week, I'm mindful that if I smash like 15 reps, then it's going to put a huge amount of weight on my lifts next week and it's going to kill me. So although I am trying to get as many as I can, I think I tend to hold maybe 1, sometimes 2 in reserve, but it's not a bad thing in terms of long-term programming. And like I said, the main thing is getting the volume in and moving forward. Anyway, topic today, what I want to talk about in terms of deadlifting is programming. I think programming, particularly for deadlifting, is really, really important. I think a lot of people tend to have the mindset of just go in the gym, deadlift to your max, stop, and then go in a week later and do the same thing. And that, I mean, if you're new to training, that will get you, that will get you by for maybe like a month, maybe even 2 or 3 months. But ultimately, you're going to hit a point and you're going to get stuck, and that is where it's really important to start thinking about programming and how you do that. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that deadlifting is very different to other lifts. You cannot program deadlifts like you would a squat or a bench press, for example, simply because they are a lot more taxing on your CNS. So for example, bench press, you can get by bench pressing heavy 2, 3, maybe even 4 times a week, and you can make progress doing that. If you try and do that deadlifting, if you try and deadlift heavy 3 times a week, you're gonna struggle unless you are a complete genetic freak. So it's not the kind of thing I would advise. You need to approach it differently. You need to kind of be prepared to drop your intensity slightly. So let's say if you were doing your squat intensities for the week were like maybe 70, 75, 80%. Deadlift, it may be that you drop each one by 5% just to allow you to continue doing that, because like I said, it's not going to be realistic to be hitting really high intensities frequently. With that said, you can still deadlift frequently. I think there is a huge myth, I've mentioned in videos previously, surrounding deadlifts. People think that you can't, a lot of people actually think that you can't deadlift more than once a week. I myself spent about a year, maybe in fact probably almost 2 years, the first 2 years of my deadlifting, thinking I couldn't deadlift more than once a week because there'll be some kind of, you know, there's some kind of weird mystical thing that you can't deadlift more than once a week. And basically that's a complete myth. You can. I've been deadlifting 3 times a week for the best part of a year now, and I've made by far more progress than I made in the preceding 2 years. And I've got lots of clients that are doing the same thing, that are also making really good progress. So as long as you are clever with your programming, and like I said, you are careful with the intensities, you can deadlift, like I said, 2-3 times a week, and it's not a problem. When I was doing the Bulgarian method, I was deadlifting 3 times a week alongside squatting 6 times a week, and I felt awesome. So there's no reason why you can't do that. The other thing I want to talk about is accessories and the fact you need to prioritize deadlift. Now, I always deadlift after squats, simply because when I compete, that's the order you do it in, so it makes sense to do that. Plus, if I try and deadlift and then squat afterwards, my squats are going to be horrendous, whereas deadlifts I can get by doing those after squats. Anyway, there is a huge thing at the moment, or just generally speaking, around deadlift accessories. Lots of people are obsessing over, I'm going to do this glute ham raise, or I'm going to do like bridges or whatever, all these accessories for deadlifts. Now, ultimately, the best way to get better at deadlifting is to deadlift. So if you find that you're doing so many accessories that it is impeding your deadlift, or that you're, I've seen one guy that was doing kind of glute ham raises before his deadlifts. That is insane. Like, you obviously need to prioritize your deadlift. If you get to a point where your volume is not so much that you're feeling pretty good and you can do accessories, and you know, throw maybe 2 or 3 accessories in, but don't go berserk to the point where it impedes your deadlifts, because like I said, ultimately deadlifting is the best way to get better at deadlifting. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is having a long-term mindset. With deadlifts, more so than anything else, you need to look at the long game. Now, I'm not talking about like 5 years, I'm talking about like from training cycle to training cycle. So I am currently a case in point of this. As I said earlier, because I'm always deadlifting after squatting, I never feel great from session to session. However, I know that come the end of the training cycle, when I deload and I deadlift by itself, I know I'm going to feel good. Now, again, I said it in the last video. When the last time I tested, which was like 4 or 5 weeks ago, I hit 310 kilos, 683 pounds, and literally 10 days before that, I was grinding out reps at low 500 pounds. So a huge drop down, and I was finding it really hard. In the space of 10 days, just a little bit of a deload, and deadlifting by itself, my deadlift went from feeling all right to feeling amazing, like feeling so light. So you need to kind of trust the process. You know, if you are doing your own programming, or you've got someone doing it for you, trust the process. Be prepared to not feel amazing all the time. As long as you're getting your volume in and you've got a plan that when it comes to test time or competition time, as long as programming is right, you should feel 10 times better. So just be mindful of that, and don't stress out, oh, I'm not feeling like that deadlift was really heavy today. I have vastly reduced deadlifts compared to my max that feel heavy, and then I can go and do a max when I'm fresh and it feels amazing. So just bear that in mind. And that, my friends, is pretty much that. I could talk about programming all day, but I'm not going to, because if you want me to tell you all of my secrets, get coached by me. Email me, mattdoesfitness@hotmail.com, and we can become best friends. I'll be your coach. I will probably give you at least 3 clementines as well, so bear that in mind. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you tomorrow.